Over the 7 or 8 years I was heavily involved with the board, we went through a couple pretty major cycles and milestones. The first really being the recognition that the conference and board model needed to change, and that was a result of an unfortunate experience where a conference host had to pull out at the last minute, but in the end it resulted in a much stronger, healthier organizational structure for NWACUHO, a new conference model, and kind of set the framework for a really stronger program experience, engagement experience. So that was kind of a first milestone that we worked on quite a bit when I was website administrator and treasurer. And as I transitioned into the presidential trio, we kind of started to take that next step of saying, okay, we have defined a better structure. Now it's time to start digging into the program a little bit. And that's where some of the core values and purpose development work came out through Dan Larson and Matt Lamsma's tenures, and really shaping and being intentional about broadening out program offerings at conferences.
You know, in terms of something that hasn't really changed appreciably, and I see it, you know, in the other regional associations with whom I've been affiliated, and currently in the Western Association, that it's a challenge. It's more of a challenge to get the CHO level people to the regional conference. You know, the programs are heavily res life. I think there's been, you know, more intentionality around getting senior housing officers to these events by being more inclusive and intentional about inviting them to do roundtables or talk about their experiences or facilitated conversations around issues and you know, that kind of thing, issues of the day, so to speak, whether it has to do with, you know, regulation or budget or the presenting issues that students come to our programs with, and parents, and, you know, on and on and on. So there was that sort of divide, if you will, even then, and I don't, you know, it hasn't changed all that much in all the years since in every association that I've attended. There are exceptions. I mean, you're going to find a handful, I think, of senior housing officers who have ascended, if you will, to mid or mid-management or upper-level positions, and they've stayed in the region, and it's their home region, and they are absolutely committed, and they're going to go every time they can and with frequency. And so, but those are relatively smaller numbers, that to my eye.
And I think the other conversation that you know, was a part of what was going on was the role of the Canadian schools. I think that we were in some ways ahead of our times, because Canadians certainly were connecting at a national level with caucus at that time. But a lot of the regions, I think, from a regional perspective, not all the Canadian schools felt as integrally involved, I think, as some of the NWACUHO schools did. And I think we've always had just really that nice partnership with the U.S. schools and the Canadian schools, and we're sensitive to needs on both sides of the border.
I owe a great deal to, I would say, the previous boards, you know, over probably the you know, leading, maybe even just going up to the 4 years before I got there. Kind of like the Dan Larson, Matt Lamsma, Richard DeSeals, Josh Ganna generation. I think that they managed to, I think, do more moving this organization forward than probably any period in time. You know, when I was the BC representative, it was touch and go. You know, we were, memory serves me correctly, we were struggling financially. We had come off of a really, really expensive conference in Anchorage, Alaska in 1998. We're far better off financially now. I think that the last five-ish years before me, There's a group of people that deserve an immense amount of credit for finding a way to get our organizational finances in order and actually get to the point where we have a really nice reserve that is a rainy day fund that puts us in a very comfortable position.